It's a really amateurish murder. The chances of getting away with it were minuscule.
Of Lucan himself, nothing has been seen since his children's nanny was found battered to death.
Dreadful crimes were committed at number 46.
Some mysteries become modern legends. Stories told so many times the truth gets lost in the fog. The disappearance of Lord Lucan after he took the life of his children's nanny was one of them. He became a phantom, a whisper of a man who cheated justice.
But it is a story which has captivated journalists around the world, police officers and the general public for half a century.
But you see, science doesn't care about legends. A stunning forensic breakthrough using DNA has finally dragged this phantom out of the fog, proving he lived on for years, hiding in plain sight. What was once a mystery is now a chilling story of a successful escape and a justice system that failed. When privilege turns violent. On the night of November 7, 1974, the elegant facades of Belgravia's grand townhouses concealed a horror that would grip Britain for decades. This was a world of wealth, status, and refined living. But at 46 Lower Belgrave Street, the ordinary rhythms of life were about to be violently and permanently shattered. Sandra Rivet, a 29-year-old nurse and nanny devoted to the Lucan children, went down the narrow staircase to the basement kitchen. All she wanted was to make a simple cup of tea. She could never have known that this routine task would place her directly in the path of a brutal, calculated attack. In an instant, the calm was destroyed. An intruder hidden in the shadows struck her with a lead pipe wrapped in plaster, a weapon as makeshift as it was sinisterly deliberate. The blows were swift and horrifying, leaving her with no chance to defend herself. The violence was both personal and terrifyingly methodical, suggesting a cold plan rather than a random outburst. What many overlooked at the time was the sheer premeditation involved. The assailant knew the house, knew the routine, and was lying in wait. Upstairs, Lady Veronica Lucan, the Earl's estranged wife, arrived home, completely unaware of the nightmare unfolding below. Within moments, she too was under attack from the same figure. She suffered severe head injuries, leaving her dazed and bleeding, her hair matted with blood. Every instinct screamed for her to survive. Despite the shocking assault, she summoned extraordinary courage, managing to break free from her attacker and flee into the cold November night. Her frantic screams echoed along the quiet, cobbled streets of Belgravia, piercing the silence of the affluent district and alerting the world that something was terribly wrong. Within hours, detectives had a chilling profile of the person they believed was responsible. Their suspicions fell squarely on one man, Lord Richard John Bingham, the 7th Earl of Lucan. He was a man whose polished aristocratic image masked a life of mounting personal and financial trouble. Lucan, famous for his high-stakes gambling at the exclusive Claremont Club, had a lifestyle that mixed glamour with extreme risk. Investigators believed he had both the motive and the opportunity to commit such a violent act. Yet when authorities arrived to bring him in for questioning, Lord Lucan had vanished without a trace. The man who had once moved effortlessly among Britain's elite had disappeared, leaving behind a grieving family, an innocent woman whose life was taken, and a nation in shock. The case exploded across newspapers and television, becoming an immediate media sensation. Public fascination was fueled by the stark contrast between Lucan's charming public persona and the violent act he was accused of. For everyone, reconciling the image of a sophisticated peer with that of a calculating assailant was almost impossible. He became the focus of a story that was as much about class and privilege as it was about a terrible crime. That night, Belgravia transformed from a quiet enclave of London's elite into the epicenter of one of the most notorious mysteries in British history. The search was on, but the man at the center of it all was gone. The motive becomes clear. Behind the polished veneer of aristocratic elegance, the Lucan household was a place of simmering darkness. To put it mildly, their life was not a fairy tale. Lady Veronica Lucan later described a marriage marked by isolation, manipulation, and relentless pressure. In public, Richard John Bingham, the 7th Earl of Lucan, was all charm and sophistication. But within the walls of their massive 4-story home, that charm could vanish in a second, replaced by an unpredictable and menacing temper. A key source of this tension was Lucan's compulsive gambling. It wasn't just a hobby, it was an obsession that was costing him a fortune, equivalent to millions of dollars today. He was a regular at John Aspinall's exclusive Claremont Club, playing high-stakes games like Baccarat and Kimmy, cultivating an image of effortless wealth while digging himself into a massive financial hole. The thing nobody tells you is just how deep that hole was. He was borrowing money from anyone who would lend it, and the pressure was building. Their lavish lifestyle, private zoos, opulent European vacations, and glamorous parties was a fragile facade hiding a growing instability. But the danger wasn't just financial. Lady Lucan described a pattern of psychological manipulation designed to control her and instill fear. He would swing between charm and aggression, leaving his family constantly on edge. At the very center of this turmoil was a bitter custody battle over their 3 children. After their separation, Veronica was granted custody, a decision that struck at the core of Lord Lucan's pride. For a man born into privilege and accustomed to getting his way, losing authority over his own family was a humiliation he simply could not accept. He launched a relentless campaign to get his children back, portraying Lady Lucan in court as unstable and unfit to be a mother. His powerful friends in London's elite circles backed him up, spreading rumors about her mental state. But the court didn't buy it. The custody ruling remained in Lady Lucan's favor, leaving Lucan increasingly bitter and obsessed. This is when his behavior took an even darker turn. Lady Lucan reported being followed, her phone calls mysteriously disturbed by clicks or dead silence. Investigators now believe Lucan was stalking his estranged wife, studying her habits and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The motive was chillingly clear. If Lady Lucan were removed from the picture, he could reclaim his children and restore his shattered reputation. The weapon, that lead pipe wrapped in plaster, was not the choice of someone in a sudden rage. It was the tool of someone who had planned this out, designed to inflict maximum damage. But fate, as it so often does, had a tragic twist in store. He never expected the family's innocent nanny to be there that night. Hiding in plain sight. Lord Lucan's disappearance ignited one of the most frantic and far-reaching manhunts in modern British history. In the hours after the event, police mobilized across the country, watching ports, airports, and train stations. But it was too late. He had a crucial head start. Soon, the search went global. Tips and rumors poured in from every corner of the world, and investigators chased down every lead, no matter how wild. You can see this everywhere in famous fugitive cases. The public becomes obsessed. Sightings were reported in the lavish hotels of Hong Kong, the quiet villages of rural France, the crowded streets of Mumbai, and even remote outposts in Australia. Yet every time, the trail went cold. He was like a ghost, always one step ahead. Over time, the case became a symbol of frustration. Reporters, private detectives, and amateur sleuths found themselves tangled in a web of conflicting stories, false sightings, and deliberate misinformation. What many overlooked was the very real possibility that Lucan was getting help from his powerful friends. Many people are crazy about the theory that a network of his aristocratic pals, the so-called Claremont set from his gambling club, orchestrated his escape. They supposedly shuffled him between safe houses before smuggling him out of the country. This idea suggests a conspiracy of the elite, a silent agreement to protect one of their own from the law. This wasn't just about loyalty, it was about preserving a way of life where the rules didn't always apply to them. Each alleged sighting, each whispered story only added to the legend. Was he living as a hippie in India? A rancher in South Africa? Had he undergone extensive plastic surgery to change his appearance? The world searched, but Lord Lucan became more myth than man. A ghost drifting through rumor and speculation. Sightings came in from every corner of the globe. Africa, South America, even small English villages where strangers seemed just a bit too familiar. Yet, no proof ever surfaced. By 1999, after 25 years of unanswered questions, the law finally closed the book. Lucan was declared legally dead. His title and estate passed to his son, George Bingham, marking what many believed was the final chapter of one of Britain's greatest mysteries. But for others, the declaration only deepened the intrigue. If Lucan had truly died, where was the body? And if he hadn't, how could a man of such fame and wealth vanish so completely? Some believed he had help, from friends in high places, perhaps even the kind of circles that could make someone disappear with a single phone call. Others suggested he had fled abroad, living under a false name, watching his own legend grow from a distance. Over time, his story shifted from a criminal case into something almost philosophical, a haunting reflection on identity, privilege, and the lengths one man might go to escape his own ruin. Whether dead or alive, Lord Lucan had achieved what few ever could. He had vanished into myth. The truth, however, wasn't hiding in some exotic location. It was waiting in a lab, a son's vow for justice. For half a century, the disappearance of Lord Lucan was pure speculation. Theories ranged from him taking his own life in the English Channel to being silenced by the criminal underworld over his gambling debts. But the most persistent rumor was that he had simply escaped, helped by his wealthy friends. Then, in early 2024, the entire story was violently upended. The cold case was jolted back to life by the one person who had never given up, Neil Berriman, Sandra Rivett's long-lost son. Berriman, who was adopted as a baby and only discovered his birth mother's identity as an adult, had dedicated himself to finding the truth. The most shocking fact is that his relentless pursuit led to a modern forensic review of evidence that had been sitting in storage for 50 years. Using technology that was pure science fiction in 1974, investigators were able to apply advanced touch DNA analysis to old fingerprints and biological traces from the scene. And the results were extraordinary. The DNA proved without a shadow of a doubt that Lord Lucan had not perished on the night of the attack. He had lived on undetected for years afterward. This wasn't just a confirmation that he was at the scene that was already widely believed. This was proof that he had successfully escaped and continued to exist long after the world had declared him gone. The implications were seismic. The news landed like a thunderclap across Britain. Every old theory about his fate was instantly obsolete. He hadn't met a tragic end. He had orchestrated the greatest vanishing act of the 20th century. The entire narrative wasn't just redefined, it was utterly shattered. The decades-old mystery of Lord Lucan hadn't ended with him disappearing into the fog of history. Instead, the horrifying truth was that he had seamlessly slipped into the fabric of another life, hiding in plain sight while the world searched for a ghost. In an instant, the case went from cold to boiling hot. Media outlets scrambled, their headlines screaming the impossible. Criminologists and historians who had built careers on theories of his demise were forced to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. How could one of the most famous fugitives on the planet conceal himself for so long? The answer was as disturbing as the crime itself. The dark possibility of a widespread cover-up by his aristocratic friends now seemed not just plausible, but a certainty. This wasn't just a few friends helping an old pal, it was a conspiracy at the highest levels of the establishment. His immense privilege hadn't just given him a head start on the night he vanished, it had granted him an impenetrable shield of silence and complicity that lasted for decades. A clandestine network had likely provided him with new identities, funneled money through untraceable accounts, and offered safe havens across continents. He hadn't just evaded capture, he had lived an entirely new life, paid for by a loyalty that placed class above the law. For Sandra Rivett's family, the discovery was a moment of both profound vindication and renewed, excruciating agony. At last, science had provided the irrefutable proof they had always sought, confirming Lucan as the man responsible. But that confirmation came with a brutal sting. It proved he had not only escaped justice, but had openly mocked it for the rest of his life, likely dying peacefully as an old man, a world away from the brutal crime he committed. The mystery was solved, but justice was never served. The story of Lord Lucan is a chilling reminder of what can happen when privilege and power collide with justice. While science has answered one question, it leaves us with an even more disturbing one. Do you believe true justice is possible when the powerful are involved? Let us know your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.